It's been a long time since we've done problems like this. Shh, shh, shh. Okay. You guys remember the distance formula?
Distance equals rate times time.
Rate times time, yeah. That one. That means how fast you go, like 50 miles an hour, times the time, 4 hours, gives you the distance, 200 miles. That's an example. If you went 50 miles an hour for 4 hours, then how far did you go? 200 miles. Distance is equal to rate times time. We have done most of these we've done something like, some of them are new, but a lot of it's not. Okay, let's just. Number 19. The hiking club went on a hike one Saturday. In the morning they walked an average speed of 3 miles an hour. In the afternoon they averaged 2 miles an hour for 1 hour more than the number of hours they walked in the morning. How many hours did they walk in the morning? They walked a total of 22 miles. Okay, it's been a long time. Do you guys remember how we started these problems?
Do we miss the
Arrow diagrams. Remember that?
Oh yeah, we do
So on this one it said they walked in the morning at this speed and then they, I don't know, ate lunch or something. And then they walked more in the afternoon. So what would that look like?
another one.
Yeah, they just keep going. So they're two separate, you need two separate distances because they walked at different speeds in the morning and afternoon. Okay, I don't know what their distances are, so what we did was we labeled them each with a rate and a time. So this distance had a rate and a time, and this distance had a rate and a time, and we just kind of plug stuff in. So let's look back from. It says in the morning they average 3 miles an hour, so what do I do with the 3?
Put in the rate.
Right, that goes for their morning rate. Rate means speed. And then in the afternoon they went 2 miles an hour. So, okay. Now as far as their time goes, it doesn't tell us, but it does tell us that they walked for an hour more in the afternoon than they did in the morning.
So the P plus 1.
Right. So the time in the afternoon would be 1 more than the time in the morning. So if the morning time we call T, the afternoon time we would call T plus 1. They gave us one more fact, and they said that they walked a total of 22 miles. That's a lot of walking. You're going to get some blisters. They walked a total of 22 miles.
Must have good shoes.
Yeah, shoes will fall apart too. So that means all the way across is 20 miles. That'd be like halfway to Tulsa, almost. It's a long walk.
Wow.
Who would want to do that?
That's a
Grandma.
My
Some-
mom would. for
Some
sure.
people like spend months.
She
would
would.
totally do that.
She would.
Okay, now we need an equation so I can solve for T, figure out what T is. So what's the relationship between these three distances? Oops, three distances.
They all go to 22 miles.
Yeah, the morning distance plus the afternoon distance equals total distance. So 3t the morning plus, whoops,
It sounds so nice.
actually kind of
it sounds like glass,
Yeah.
which I don't like as much as board. I
It's
guess.
like pristine gold, like.
You know what? You have problems.
It's like whenever people with long nails like type on their phone.
Yeah.
It's like
People have
Like,
nails.
whenever
It's like
they
when you type
whenever they
You
type,
just, like, try and
yeah,
draw
whenever they
your
type,
finger.
it'd be like.
The finger doesn't work. You need a really fine point for it to actually write on. If you use your finger, it just scrolls.
Bro.
And then if you use a large
That
area,
erases.
it erases.
You put your face on it like that's like a punch.
Okay, so it's a normal problem now, right? So just whoopsie.
Whoops.
If you don't hold the pen right, it scrolls.
Really? That's
You
kind
already
of
said it.
sad.
That sounds annoying.
Okay, anyways,
It probably
so
has been holding.
If you hold your pen sideways, it's too big of a surface. You have to hold it straight on like this.
Smart board, more
Right.
like dumb board.
It's not called a smart board though.
Remember we said that all the time?
No, I think
No,
it
we
is.
thought it was so cool that much when we said
I
that.
think it is a smart board actually.
It is, because it says on top smart.
I thought it might be called a smart TV, but I think it's just a smart board. I can't tell, but I think that's.
Do you like your old one or this one?
You're being
I like
recorded.
this one now because
This one's more
I don't feel
advanced.
the word.
Yeah, this one's
uh,
more.
it's got
They can do
some
more.
new toys on it, but there were some things about the old one that I think were better. So anyway. Okay,
I got 4.
have you guys solved it already?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Okay, 20 divided by 5 is, what does 4 mean on this problem?
Like T plus 1.
What does T equals 4 mean?
4 hours.
4 hours.
Or 4 minutes.
What was 4? What was 4 hours?
The time,
The time.
Time for what?
it took them to do 22 miles.
Yeah.
No, the time it took that side.
T is what we call the time for their morning walk. So they walk 4 hours in the morning. How long did they walk in the afternoon?
4 hours. 5 hours.
5 hours. Well, they walked 22 miles. That's a huge distance. They walked. They walked 5, 4 plus 1. They walked 5 hours in the afternoon.
But wouldn't you multiply that by 2?
Okay, if you multiply the time times the rate, that'll give you the distance they walked in the afternoon.
Because it's
So
12
you
plus
really need to look at what they're asking. What are they asking? How many hours did they walk in the morning?
4.
4.
4.
So most of these problems today actually have 2 answers, like 4 hours and 5 hours, but this one just asks for the morning walk. So that would be 4 hours.
I'm liking those. Even though I hate reading them.
You guys want me to try another color? White looks pretty cool.
White.
Do green.
No.
Grin.
Neon
Purple.
green.
You should do bright
White.
yellow. You
Please
should do all of
white,
them.
white. Please say pink.
Just do all
Okay,
of them.
we'll start with green.
Let's go green. Ew.
Green with purple.
That looks cute.
It's so
You should
ugly.
have done it.
It probably is.
My eyes.
Okay, number 20. So on the evens, I'm gonna help you guys set them up, but you're gonna have to solve it yourself. They're kind of 20 is pretty much same as 19. So remember how we start these? You want to picture it with arrows. So as I read this, try to set it up with arrows, and then we'll see if you got it right. Bob leaves Centerville at 11 a.m. and travels west at 45 miles an hour. Lane leaves Centerville at 1 p.m. the same day and travels east at 50 miles an hour. At what time will they be 375 apart? Did you guys get arrows?
Does it look white in the middle of the
They're
arrow?
starting together, one's going west, the other's going east, so it looks like that.
Oh, I got that wrong.
Yeah, I got it right.
Congratulations, Grant.
The first time.
Okay,
Did I ask?
it says, Bob left at 11 a.m. What time of day is 11 a.m.? Is it morning or evening? Morning. AM, I always think AM is like after midnight, because it actually starts right at
Wait,
midnight.
it's 20?
And I think of PM as past morning, because it's at noon, it's PM.
That's usually when I wake up though.
You wake up in the
I have a
PM.
question.
Yeah.
Who didn't know how many letters were in the alphabet?
That
How many
was,
letters from
somebody
the
was,
alphabet? How many?
somebody
It
was
says
writing
26.
messages in code with little numbers instead of letters.
Oh. Morse does. Stop. You could just do 8.
Doesn't make sense though, because if he's 18,
it
look like 1 and 8, which is 8.
Okay, anyways. So it says, Bob's going west at 45 miles an hour. What do I do with the 45?
That's the rate.
This is Bob, so yeah, that'd be his rate. I don't know his time yet, let's put T for now. Might have to fix that later. And then the other person, Lane, was going 50 miles an hour. I'll put T for their time for now. Okay, it said Bob started at 11 a.m., it's right before noon, and Lane started at 1 p.m. Who was traveling longer?
Bob.
Bob. How much longer?
3 hours.
11? 2 hours, right? From 11 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon, that's 2 hours. So Bob was traveling for 2 hours longer, so guess what? Who would have guessed? T plus 2.
You.
Because Bob's time was 2 hours longer. What information are we missing?
The miles.
They're 375 miles apart.
The distance.
The total distance, yeah. Technically, each of these is a distance. This is a distance, rate times this is a distance, and 375 is the total distance. Okay, what's the relationship between these three distances? Bob's distance plus Lane's distance equals the total distance. Okay, since this isn't even, you guys are going to have to solve this by yourself, but let's make sure we know what they're actually asking. Are they just asking for the time, T? T stands for what?
Time.
What time?
The time hours.
Lane's time.
Yeah.
T plus 2 stands for Bob's time. Usually on these problems they ask for both, although the last one they didn't. It says, oh, this one's a tricky one. It says, at what time will they be 375 miles apart? Okay, so if you solve for T here, that tells us how much time Lane was traveling. So if Lane started at 1 p.m., that's what the problem said. Whoops, it's supposed to be dots. Let's get that. Okay, if Lane started at 1 p.m. and he traveled for this many hours, how do you figure out what time before they were done? No. So let's say I got, this is not the answer, but let's say I solve this and I get T equals 2. What does that mean?
How the time.
That's how many hours Lane traveled.
Oh, you plug it in.
No.
Oh, you
Okay.
add that to the
So they left at 11 a.m.
Yes.
So then you make it
No. Well, Lane left at 1 p.m. and this is Lane's time.
said yes to me, stupid.
Bob left at 11 a.m., but T stands for Lane's time, not Bob's time. So if he left at 1 and then he travels for 2 hours, what time?
Go to 8 p.m.
Yeah. 2 hours later would be 3 p.m., right? So you just add that to 1 p.m. That's not the answer, by the way. I made that up. I'm pretty sure it's not the answer. Yeah, it's not the
They want to do
answer.
it right.
It's not the answer. I'll put that. Does that make sense? I guess I'll pause for a couple minutes to let you guys do it.
Sorry. Stop down.
Yours does.
You sound like the Fortnite card thing. When it like, never mind.
Yeah.
Stop
What?
talking.
No more. Like that one.
No. You're stupid.
Bro.
I put on 95. Just kidding.
So we're missing
I'm gonna-
Anna,
Forest.
And
Forrest,
And
You
Eli.
are.
I was saying this yesterday.
give me it.
We can give them
Mr. Jordan.
a hello message from the YouTube video.
From Joe Biden. Mr.
Hello, Anna,
Hello.
Forrest, and Eli. Like-
Yo, hey Forrest, you're
When we get the
Tell Josh
time,
I said
I
happy
forgot how to like, cause are we getting?
Okay,
what-
that's how T stands for the time Lane traveled.
Yeah,
He started at 1, so the question is when was he done? When did he stop? So you just take how many hours he traveled, T,
Add it.
and add that to 1 p.m.
Forest.
Forest, yeah. needs to get off the Xbox and check the English company's my hair. They don't find out more right now. Yeah, but Halo on 360 though.
That's the lane, right?
360.
The answer that we did, was the lane.
Well, they stopped at the same time. It's actually when Bob handling both.
So is it gonna be like a time?
It's a time of day, it's like
No.
3 p.m. or something like that, but that's not true.
I don't know.
Alright, let's do the next one. What color do we want this time?
Yellow.
White.
White.
Purple.
Do white.
I said yellow first.
No one asked.
No one likes yellow.
She did
Good
win.
for you. I don't care.
Okay, number 21.
Good for you.
Okay, this is a new type of problem. So on this problem, there's a plane that has a, part of the problem has a headwind. Do you guys know what a headwind is?
Nope.
That's when the wind is hitting your head, so it's like slowing the plane down.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Okay, and a tailwind is, guess what? It's hitting the tail of the plane, so it's speeding the plane up. So on these problems, instead of just distance equals rate times time, if you have a tailwind, it's going to be pushing you to go faster. So instead of just a normal rate of the plane, it's rate plus wind speed will be the rate of the plane. Does that make sense? Because the wind is going to make the plane go faster.
What does the W stand for?
Wind.
Wind.
Wind
Oh,
speed.
sorry, I didn't hear.
So instead of distance equals rate times time, it's distance equals rate plus wind. This is when you have a tailwind pushing you. But guess what if you have a headwind going against you? Right, it's gonna slow down your plane by that much. Now actually the wind probably doesn't make you go, like if there's a 30-mile-an-hour wind, it's not gonna make you go exactly 30 miles an hour faster. But it'll help quite a bit. If you're in a car, it won't help hardly at all. It helps some, it does help quite a bit. But it doesn't help 30 miles an hour.
Are we gonna have a test over this?
I might put one of these on the test.
Please
But
put
most of the
music on.
test, the vast majority of the test is what we've been doing, like solving these kinds of problems.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
I don't,
Like add the lines together, substitution, you guys remember doing all that stuff?
yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Can you not do what we're doing on the test, please?
These are just.
We'll see.
I
Are you
Okay.
gonna do the ones?
I beg of you.
On number, we need to keep moving.
Like,
Number 21 says, shh, hush, flying with the wind. The plane goes 1,200 nautical miles. A nautical mile is, I don't know why they did this, but it's slightly longer than a normal mile. Usually it's used for both. Nautical means like ocean. But I guess they use it with planes sometimes too. It's like 1.1 miles. I don't even think it's that far, but
Why did they do
Something
that?
fun.
it's just a distance. Just pretend it's like a normal mile.
Okay.
So guess where I'm gonna put, it says, with the wind, 1,200 miles. Okay, if it's with the wind, which of these equations should I
The
use?
second line, one.
Okay, the first one, because if you're with the wind is pushing you. You're going,
That's what.
you're going faster. So I'm gonna use this, and it's 1,200 is the distance, right? So I'm gonna put, actually, let's move this down.
Oh, oh my. Wow.
I'm gonna put 1,200 where the distance was. And then it also says they're going for 4 hours. I don't know what these speeds are, but I do know it was for 4 hours. Okay, then it says on the second sentence, flying against the wind. So what does that mean?
Subtract.
Yeah, it's gonna be slowing us down. So we're gonna use this equation now. 500 nautical miles. I'm gonna put 500 for the distance right there. And it's, I think it said 2 hours, right? Yeah. I don't know what the rate of the plane or the wind speed was. But I do know the time was 2 hours. Okay, now I have a system of equations. So these two guys right here together. The question is, what's the speed of the plane? That's the R, like rate speed. And W is what's the wind speed. So I wanted to figure out what R and W is. Now you could just do distributive property. Do you guys think that?
Backwards.
And then it would look like 4R plus 4W, 2R minus 2W. And we could like, you guys remember how we got rid of like elimination?
You,
Multiply one line.
yeah.
But actually, probably the easiest way to do, and that would work, that would be fine, we could do that. Probably the easiest way to solve these though is actually to get rid of the 4 and the 2. How do you think I could get rid of the 4? Divide by 4, because 4 is being multiplied,
Alright.
right? So if I divide by 4, what's 1200 divided by 4?
120, I don't know.
300.
300.
And then if I divide this side by 4, of course it just goes away. So I get R plus W. And then guess what I'm going to do on this one? Divide by 2, so I'm going to get 250. Now I've got a really simple set of equations. How could I solve that? Yeah, what's going to happen when I add these two lines together?
Boom, bam, bop, dead.
W's go bye-bye.
Yeah.
What's R plus R?
2R.
550.
So 275.
275. Okay. What does R stand for again? I forgot. Pretend like I forgot. And rate means speed. So this is the speed of the plane. So it's like nautical. It's miles per hour, but actually it's nautical miles per hour.
Like knots, like those things.
Which they made a term for called knots.
Boat.
It's basically they're saying miles per hour. That's what that means.
I would not want to. It's like
That's how you.
stop.
Yeah.
It's like
N-A-U-T,
do you want to do it either?
pronounced the same.
No.
Maybe it's because they used to measure like distances with ropes and they put knots in them to mark off the distances.
Can you do white now?
That makes sense.
That's great.
We'll do white on the next problem.
Why is people being racist?
Oh, this is not done.
Okay,
Stupid. Shut up.
that's one of their answers, but they're also asking for the wind speed. So how can we find the wind speed? Well, look right here. We got a couple of really simple equations. 275 plus what equals 300?
So then you
Subtract
subtract 275.
275,
It's 25.
25.
25 volts.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is.
25 miles an hour, it's kind of windy. The plane is going to go a lot faster than the wind is. If we had a 100-mile-an-hour wind, it could like destroy buildings.
So this one is cool.
Guys, there's 100 no, wait, just straight out.
Okay, anyway, that's the new kind of problem. Alright, you guys ready for 22?
Yeah.
22 is actually an old kind of problem, not the new kind of problem we just did, so. No, that's as hard as it gets.
An old
Like my dad. I mean, I didn't like grandpa.
Oops, I forgot. Okay.
Oh yeah, my grandpa's birthday is today. So was my dad.
I think it's actually gray because you can write it in black on this and still see it.
Really?
Yeah,
So it's like math or
I'll
something.
show you that.
Or
You can't see brown now.
You don't see it really well, but it's
Black
actually
or
there.
different.
Huh?
Yeah, like
You don't
math.
see
Like
brown
going
on
back.
that.
I think this is gray, that's what I'm saying.
No, if you change the color to gray, then you can't see it.
Oh.
And what's the
Um,
different shade of gray?
Shh, okay, 22, yeah. Mrs. Vaughn and her, so, girls, let's go with draw the arrow diagram for this. Miss Vaughn and her son Martin live 184 miles apart. If they leave their homes at the same time and head towards each other, they will meet in 2 hours. Martin travels 12 miles an hour faster than his mother. How fast does each travel?
Wouldn't they both be going
Don't
towards
they
each
like
other?
have the arrows like together pointed side?
Yeah, they're coming together.
Looks like an X.
Okay, we'll say this one is Martin,
Smart.
and we'll say this one is his mom.
Mon.
No comments there. So they will both have a rate. I don't know what their distances are, so I'm gonna give them both a rate and a time. The first thing it tells us is that they're 184 miles apart. What do I do with 184?
It's the
city
overall.
Yes, the overall distance, correct.
Uh-huh.
Okay, the next thing it tells us is they leave at the same time, they travel for 2 hours. So what do I do with the 2 hours?
The time or
Yeah.
two.
They're both, if they start at the same time, they meet up at the same time, both their times are gonna be the same, and that is a 2. Okay, what do I put for the rates? It doesn't tell us their rates, except for, it does say that Martin is going 12 miles an hour faster than his mom. So what should I put for the rates?
T plus 12.
Plus.
It'd be our
Right.
12.
His rate is 12 more than his mom's rate. So if we just call his mom's rate R, then we could call his R plus 12. Does that make sense? Because he's going that much faster than she
His
is.
mom is slow at driving.
She's a grandpa.
Okay,
She's probably like 84 something.
who can tell me what the equation will be for these three distances?
You do distributive property.
What's the equation though?
12 plus 2R equals 180.
Yeah, Martin's distance plus his mom's distance equals total distance. What are they asking? You're gonna solve this by yourself, but they're asking how fast does each travel? So you should have two answers. How do we figure out, what does R tell us?
The mom.
Mom's speed. How do we figure out Martin's speed?
You add 12 to that?
Add 12. His speed is R plus 12. So R is the first answer, that's mom's speed. And then add 12, that's Martin's speed. Got two answers.
So did you write both answers down?
Yes.
Okay, got it. His mom is driving very slow, and so is he.
Could be the speed one.
Yes, they could be driving at a great.
Martin loves breaking traffic laws.
Because if he was in Australia, he'd be driving upside down. Overrated joke. Are you a cowboy?
Yeah, Bruce. Name's Chuck.
No, that's. I guess.
Yeah,
Your name's Jim.
Jim.
And my name
It's
is.
in that accent.
Oh, my name's
I'm
Daryl.
trying.
I'm Daryl. You're not cute. Get me a big
Okay. Any luck? No luck.
Chick-fil-A.
Can you check mine?
Chick-fil-A steak. Oh, the Chick-fil-A.
I got you wrong. Like, line.
Chick-fil-A steak.
Okay.
Nothing bad.
R
Chick-fil-A.
stands for his mom's speed. That's one of the answers.
My.
So it would be 52.
The other answer, second answer, yeah, is that
Yeah.
plus 12.
You know, Canadian Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Who does?
You should have two answers, so you should have like
So
two
it'd be
things
like-
circled.
So it'd be R equals 40, and then, wait, what would we do as the other initial T?
Okay, mom's speed is 40. Martin's speed is.
So would we just put mom equals 40 and Martin equals 52? Yeah, that's what I'm confused about.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, 23.
Imagine the school watching Mr. Jordan's videos and they heard all the cool things you said.
That's a pretty good speed.
Alright, what color do we want?
Purple.
Hayden, that's
No,
so
much.
Did we already use this?
No, and then green.
You should always.
Okay, 23.
Neutral color.
Listen, a southbound train travels for 2 hours and meets a northbound train that has been traveling for 4 hours. The trains started from cities 350 miles apart. What is the speed of each train if the northbound train travels 10 miles an hour slower than the southbound? Okay, usually on a map, what would northbound be? Well,
Going up?
yeah, you're heading north.
Do you have to make the arrows that way?
It doesn't really matter. And then the southbound train would be like that. Right?
just write it sideways.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Colors look different when you stand to the side. Probably doesn't make that much difference when you're that far away. I forgot what I was reading. So, guys, I'm gonna read it again. I want you to try and label the arrows this time. Try to label everything yourself this time. Okay, a southbound train travels for 2 hours. So try to figure out where the 2 goes. And meets a northbound train that has been traveling for 4 hours. The trains start from cities 350 miles apart. Okay, what is the speed of each train if the northbound train travels 10 miles an hour slower than the southbound train? Alright, see how you did. So it was southbound train 2 hours. This is southbound, like they're heading south. So that would be this one. Northbound train 4 hours. Total distance was 350. That would be like this. And what else? Which one was slower? The northbound train was 10 slower. So this guy's rate was minus 10 compared to this one.
I did it. I found it. Oh, you found it?
Huh?
Oh, okay.
What'd you say?
I finally got the
She
hang of
said,
it.
not now.
I'm so smart, guys.
Okay, and then what would the equation be? It's kind of the same as all the other ones.
4.
This distance was this distance equals total distance.
You guys are so mean to me.
You're still new to me. That sounds like a personal problem, though.
2. Oh, 2.
You can't erase it purple.
Quit crying, weekly.
If you're looking straight at it, like in the middle, it looks really good, but if you look to the side, it's really dark.
Hey, Mr. Jordan, do you mind if I use the restroom?
That's fine.
You should try white.
Yeah, I could light it up, but
Yeah, we're gonna try white.
No, like the
the
background
last time I
white.
did white, didn't
No, the background white. No,
I?
that's
Oh, I thought you were talking Paxton to white.
I knew you were not.
No, no.
We heard something.
I mean, yes, but
I mean, I sure hope he does though. That'd be
Yeah, he
kinda
said
gross.
next to me.
Okay,
Yeah. You just smell a little.
you guys have
smell.
R yet?
Put his name in it.
it's 6, right? Wait, no, never mind. I was thinking
Is it
that's
6?
eight. No, it's not. I was thinking
It's an 8. Wait, why is it?
It's
not
6.
Cause it's
I don't think I've heard the right answer yet.
Not 4 times 2.
Oh my gosh,
I'm looking.
why?
I have 65 and 55.
I'm looking.
Same.
Nice.
Yeah, 390 divided by
I'm drawing
6
this name.
is 65. Let me see how that.
Oh, I must have done it different.
I see it really well.
Yeah, if you, from head on, it's really good.
Alright, let me just like see
Isn't
that.
that southbound?
Yeah, that's.
Right?
yeah, that is
dark.
Yeah, I do
Isn't
see it
ours
how it
southbound?
can be super darker from like here, and then I look right here and it's fine.
Oh wow, that's way better.
Okay,
What?
what does 65 represent?
Miles per
Yeah, the southbound, we call the southbound train R.
Yeah.
So
Where's the
southbound
station?
train's going, yes,
Yeah.
southbound train's going 65 miles an hour. Northbound train's going 65 minus 10, 55.
55.
So the two answers are 65 and 55. I'll just say south, MPH, and north
80.
equals 55.
What do you mean?
Hi, Spencer.
55 and 60.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if I said I was doing it backwards, I was like,
No, I
You said
was
no.
doing it backwards.
You said
I
yes.
I
did.
was kidding.
yeah, we did it. Next time,
I
start
did
with
where
first
it
answer.
was R4
Yeah,
and
maybe
Just say it like the last time.
Okay.
R plus 10 was southbound.
We'll do one more.
No.
Listen,
And it's an even, so you guys are gonna finish it on your own.
Does that mean we're gonna continue everything tomorrow?
No, we'll stop at 24.
Let's go.
yes.
Okay,
Wait, we just did 24.
that was 23.
No, we didn't. That was 23. Wait, what? No. Okay.
No.
That was
1, 2,
23.
3, 4, 5, 6 problems.
Yep.
Okay, you missed one problem here today.
I know.
That we're not.
That's
I'm
what
gonna
I
make each problem worth 2. If you do your work, you get 1 point. You get the right
That
answer.
still means that you're dead if you miss 1 point.
Yeah.
No,
Maybe
that
12.
means you have
12.
1 out of 12 is
I
still
did one, you missed one. You still-
Okay, we'll do white this time. So,
Yeah, so you never gonna make those right.
find the rate, listen, find the rate of 2 cars traveling in the same direction if they leave the same place at the same time. But one car is going, girls. Find the rate of 2 cars traveling in the same direction if they leave the same place at the same time. One car is 1.5 times as fast as the other. So what would that picture look like?
2 arrows going to each other, right?
No, they leave the same place at the same time, going in the same direction.
Overlapping.
So like the
Well,
first line.
I'm not
I did
gonna-
2 parallel.
I'm not gonna draw them on top of each other because that would be too confusing.
Yeah.
But one of them was going a lot faster,
Like speed
so
on.
it's gonna get farther. Okay, are you guys ready to label?
Draw lines. Yeah.
Okay, well, the first part is probably the most confusing part. So I'm gonna skip it and come back. It says after 4 hours, so that it says they started at the same time, and then it says after 4 hours. This one's a little different than the others because we haven't had the arrow set up like this yet, so it's a little bit different. It says the faster car is 80 miles ahead of the slower car.
Dang.
Definition
Okay,
was
so
correct.
where do we put the 80? You gotta figure that out. Okay, and then it said, the last thing that I skipped earlier says, one car is 1.5 times as fast as the other. One car is 1.5 times as fast as the other. Okay,
It's rate times.
let's see how you did. What did you guys do with the 4?
No.
I
I'll
put
put
the
on
4
both
under.
Oh,
4 was both of their times, so they both get a 4. Okay, this is tricky. What'd you guys do with the 80?
extra.
I put it.
80 was the how much farther the faster person went. So that would be like this gap right here. The person who was going faster went 80 miles farther than this person that was going slower. So I put it right there. And then as far as the rate goes, the fast person was 1.5 times the slow person. So if I call the slow person speed R, I can call the fast person speed
Or
1.5 times R. Does that make sense? Because 1.5 times R, basically. I wish I wouldn't have written it over there. See, can I move this stuff? There. Try and get it. Alright, it's kind of, it's a little, kind of normal here. How do we set up the equation?
Like, so, like we normally do.
Yeah, it's pretty normal. So what would, it's a little bit different though. What would it be?
Like
Or
6
R.
6R.
Hmm?
But
4 R.
4R.
Plus 4.
Nope.
Oh.
Okay. This plus this is as long as this, right?
4R.
So this plus this equals this.
4R plus 80.
Yeah. We need to figure out what 4 times 1.5 is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you guys finish. You need both car rates. Ours is what we call the slow car's speed. You do that times 1.5 to find the fastest car speed. So,
So do we like subtract the R's from each other?
yeah, if you have R on both sides, you need to subtract it on one side.
That's way easier than I previously thought. R's? So, do we need 2 answers or 1 answer?
2 answers is asking for both of their speeds.
It's 24.
So, after we found one speed, do we put that in and times it by 1.5?
Yes.
I knew that you said.
Gotcha.